I think it's why I'm here. This is the thing that I was put here to do. At one point after my mom passed.
In the early 1990s, television witnessed a revolutionary shift in how Black life was represented on mainstream sitcoms. This transformation was embodied by the groundbreaking series Living Single, a show that brought audiences into the lives of 6 friends living in a Brooklyn brownstone. Debuting in 1993, the show presented an authentic, stylish, and comedic portrayal of Black young professionals navigating love, friendship, and ambition. Created by the visionary Yvette Lee Bowser, at just 27 years old, the series centered on Khadijah James, an independent magazine publisher played by Queen Latifah, and her circle of friends, Sinclair, her quirky cousin played by Kim Coles, Regine, the gossiping, fashion-obsessed childhood friend played by Kim Fields, Maxine Shaw, the sharp-witted attorney portrayed by Erica Alexander, Kyle Barker, the suave and intelligent stockbroker portrayed by T.C. Carson, and Overton, the loyal and goofy handyman played by John Henton. On screen, their chemistry made them appear as a chosen family bound by years of closeness. But behind the scenes, the path to creating and sustaining Living Single was anything but easy. What unfolded was a 5-season story of struggle, resilience, betrayals, and solidarity that mirrored the same spirit of community the show celebrated on camera. From the start, the cast and creators found themselves fighting battles to protect the authenticity of their vision. One of the earliest and most pivotal conflicts surrounded the character of Maxine Shaw. Executives were concerned that Max, a strong, outspoken Black female lawyer, would be too much for audiences. Bowser, who had poured her own ambitions and identity into the character, was not willing to let her go. She saw Max as a reflection of her own dream of becoming a lawyer and the embodiment of the confident, independent women she wanted to see on television. When pressured to remove Max, Bowser held firm, issuing an ultimatum. If Max was eliminated, she would walk away from the series. The network relented, but not without compromise. Max would not live with the other women in the brownstone, but would instead be placed across the street, which is why audiences so often saw her making grand entrances into Khadijah's apartment. This victory ensured the preservation of a beloved character and set the tone for the continuing fight to maintain integrity within the show. Though their on-screen chemistry felt seamless, the cast members were strangers when production began. As Kim Fields later described it, they had to immediately embody friendships and histories that did not exist, essentially blurring fiction and reality. Yet, their skill as actors allowed them to pull it off convincingly, creating the illusion of deep-rooted bonds. Ironically, it was the addition of genuine family ties that infused authenticity into the show's core. Queen Latifah's real mother, Rita Owens, was cast as Khadijah's mother, while Kim Fields' real mother, Chip Fields, played Regine's mom. These small but powerful choices grounded the series with genuine connections, making the fictional family feel all the more believable. Even the set itself carried a secret. The first season Brooklyn brownstone interior wasn't custom-built. It was recycled from the set of Family Matters. While the backdrop may have been borrowed, the stories and struggles within Living Single were wholly original, and the fight for truthful representation was fierce from the start. The battle for respect wasn't just about characters or sets. It extended to how the show itself was treated compared to others. Living Single made its debut in 1993 and quickly became a hit, especially among Black and Latinx audiences who saw themselves reflected in ways television had rarely attempted before. The celebration was short-lived. In 1994, NBC premiered Friends, a sitcom about 6 young white adults living in New York City. The similarities were impossible to ignore, and many saw Friends as a repackaged version of Living Single designed for mainstream white audiences. Queen Latifah later revealed that NBC President Warren Littlefield admitted in an interview that the one show he wished he had for his network was Living Single. Not long after, Friends was born, a fact that Kim Coles and other cast members have publicly confirmed as evidence of how directly Living Single influenced the creation of Friends. The similarities between characters, such as Sinclair and Phoebe, only deepened the sting. Both shows were produced on the Warner Brothers lot, but the treatment they received couldn't have been more different. While the Friends cast enjoyed huge salaries, expansive marketing campaigns, and abundant resources, the Living Single cast had to constantly fight for basic support. T.C. Carson later described the experience as a painful reminder that while their work was groundbreaking, it was not being valued equally by the industry profiting from it. For the Living Single cast, it wasn't just a case of being overlooked. It was a systemic slight that reinforced inequities in Hollywood. The disparity in treatment created a heavy emotional toll for the actors, particularly when coupled with the pressures they faced from within their own network. Kim Coles revealed that every season she was pressured to lose weight. Executives repeatedly told her manager that unless she slimmed down, the writers would be instructed to begin inserting fat jokes at her expense. This constant threat could have crushed her confidence, but the women of Living Single stood united. Erica Alexander, upon learning about the pressure, immediately declared that she would refuse to deliver any such lines. Queen Latifah echoed this stance, making it clear to producers that body-shaming humor would have no place on their show. Together, the women transformed what could have been a source of shame into a radical act of body positivity. Behind the E2 scenes, they nurtured each other, often changing in front of one another without judgment and celebrating their natural bodies in defiance of the industry's narrow standards. Their solidarity created a safe space that was rare in Hollywood, and their connection became so profound that even their menstrual cycles aligned, a biological reflection of their deep bond. This sisterhood was further tested and strengthened by moments of personal tragedy. Queen Latifah's brother, Lancelot Jr., had died in a motorcycle accident in 1992, just before the show began. To honor him, she wore the key to his motorcycle around her neck throughout the series, a subtle tribute most fans never realized. Kim Coles, who shared a dressing room with Latifah, took it upon herself to keep her co-star laughing through her grief, serving as both friend and emotional support. These off-screen dynamics made the family audiences loved on television a reality behind the cameras, even as external pressures mounted. Yet not all conflicts could be overcome through solidarity. One of the most devastating blows to the show came with the firing of T.C. Carson, whose character Kyle Barker had been integral to both the ensemble's chemistry and the beloved romantic tension with Erica Alexander's Maxine Shaw. Carson had become the unofficial spokesperson for the cast, voicing their collective concerns about scripts and pushing back against attempts to reduce Kyle and Overton to stereotypes. His insistence that two black men on the show not be portrayed as buffoons, in contrast to the strong female characters, was a stance rooted in integrity. Unfortunately, the network interpreted his advocacy as defiance. By the end of the fourth season, he was written off under the guise of Kyle taking a job in London. When Carson asked producers if he was being let go, he was told no, only to discover after watching his final episode air that his contract had not been renewed. For Carson, the betrayal lay not just in the firing itself, but in the deception. His exit left a wound that never fully healed. Erica Alexander later admitted that without him, she felt lost as Max. Their repartee had been a cornerstone of the show, and his absence was like ripping the soul out of her character. The final season, with new additions like Trip and Ronnie, never recaptured the same magic. And while the writers attempted to give Max and Kyle a happy ending in the finale, revealing that she was pregnant with his child through a sperm donation, it rang hollow compared to the organic spark that had once driven their dynamic. Despite these challenges, the legacy of Living Single endured, and the cast carried its lessons forward into their post-show careers. Queen Latifah became a Hollywood powerhouse, balancing music, film, and television with executive producing roles. She has used her influence to create opportunities for others and continues to champion representation, while also embracing motherhood and advocating for health awareness. Kim Fields pivoted into directing, working on shows like Kenan and Kel and Tyler Perry Productions before returning to acting with Netflix's The Upshaws. She also became an entrepreneur, launching her own wellness platform and coffee brand. Kim Coles turned personal struggles with depression and financial hardship into strength, becoming a motivational speaker, author, and life coach, while still acting and co-hosting the Reliving Single podcast with Erica Alexander. Erica herself leaned fully into her activist spirit, co-founding Color Farm Media to produce stories centered on underrepresented communities. Her company has been behind acclaimed projects like John Lewis, Good Trouble, and The Big Payback, and her acting career has flourished with roles in Get Out, American Fiction, and Run the World. T.C. Carson reinvented himself as a successful voice actor, most famously as Kratos in the God of War series, while also continuing his work as a jazz vocalist and club owner in Atlanta. John Henton survived a near-fatal car accident in 2000 that left him with severe injuries and required reconstructive surgery, but he returned to his first love, stand-up comedy, choosing to focus on family and personal joy over Hollywood's demands. Looking back, the story of Living Single is not just about a sitcom, but about resilience, advocacy, and chosen family. The cast and creators fought constantly for representation and authenticity in a system that undervalued them, and in doing so, they laid the groundwork for future generations of Black actors, writers, and producers. What viewers saw on screen, the media laughter, love, and strength, was rooted in the real experiences of people who defied pressures to conform, and who stood together when the industry tried to diminish them. Their struggles, victories, and enduring legacies prove that the story of Living Single is more than just a chapter in television history. It is a testament to the power of community, the importance of representation, and the lasting impact of artists who refuse to compromise their truth. The saga of Living Single is not only a story of television history, but also a mirror reflecting the broader challenges of race, gender, and representation in Hollywood. At its heart, it was about 6 friends trying to make it in New York City. But beyond the laughs and storylines, it carried the weight of pioneering uncharted territory for Black-led ensemble sitcoms. The show premiered at a time when diversity in primetime television was minimal, and though its humor was universal, its lens was unapologetically Black. It presented successful, flawed, ambitious, stylish, and deeply human characters who reflected real communities often invisible in mainstream programming. That alone was revolutionary. But the revolution was not welcomed without resistance. At nearly every turn, the creators and cast found themselves having to fight for the right to exist on their own terms. Their very presence as a group of strong Black characters was deemed a risk by executives, who often failed to understand that authenticity was not a threat. It was the show's power. What makes the behind-the-scenes story even more poignant is how much of what they endured continues to resonate today. The constant comparison to Friends highlights a long-standing issue in the entertainment industry. The idea that Black creativity can be borrowed, repackaged, and sold to broader audiences, without proper recognition or support for its originators. The Friends juggernaut became a cultural phenomenon with enormous financial rewards for its cast and creators, while Living Single, despite breaking ground first, was treated as a secondary product. This disparity was not about talent, story, quality, or audience demand. It was about the systemic undervaluing of Black stories. The Living Single cast knew this in real time, which made the experience even more bitter. As T.C. Carson articulated, to work on the same studio lot and watch the other show be showered with resources while they were denied basic respect was a daily reminder of inequality. Their frustration wasn't envy. It was righteous anger at injustice. They weren't simply being left behind. They were being stepped over. The firing of T.C. Carson remains perhaps the most defining wound of the series, not only because of the loss of chemistry, but because of what it represented. A silencing of resistance. Carson's refusal to allow Kyle and Overton to become caricatures wasn't about ego. It was about representation. He understood that millions of viewers, especially young Black men, were watching and drawing messages about who they could be. For him, the stakes were higher than sitcom plots. They were cultural. That the network chose to interpret his advocacy as arrogance reveals how little value was placed on his insight. By removing him, they didn't just disrupt the show's creative core, they sent a chilling message about compliance being more important than creativity. His firing broke something intangible, and though the show limped to a fifth season, the spirit was fractured. Erica Alexander's emotional admission years later that she didn't know how to play Max without Kyle underscores how much the network underestimated the power of that dynamic. Their characters were not just entertaining, they were aspirational, complex, and beloved. Yet, even as the show's ending was tinged with disappointment, its legacy has only grown. In many ways, the post-living single lives of its cast are as much a part of the show's story as the episodes themselves. Each cast member carried forward the lessons of resistance, resilience, and reinvention. Queen Latifah's journey to becoming a global icon is a testament to how she transformed obstacles into opportunities. Erica Alexander's pivot to activism and media ownership embodies Maxine Shaw's fierce independence in real life. Kim Fields and Kim Coles both turned challenges into reinvention, carving out new roles for themselves as directors, entrepreneurs, and motivators. John Henton's survival after his near-fatal accident is nothing short of miraculous. While T.C. Carson's reinvention as a voice actor and jazz musician shows how true artistry finds new paths, even when one door is slammed shut. Ultimately, the story of Living Single is larger than one show. It is a story about how marginalized voices fight not only to be heard, but to remain uncompromised once they are. It is about the cost of authenticity in an industry that often rewards imitation over originality. And it is about the enduring power of community, the way people can come together, protect one another, and create beauty even when systems conspire against them. When fans look back at Living Single, they don't just remember the jokes or the stylish brownstone, they remember how it felt to see themselves represented with dignity, humor, and love. That impact cannot be erased or overshadowed by any comparisons. The cast may have moved on to new chapters, but the heart of the show beats on in every story of resilience they continue to tell. Their journey proves that while networks can control contracts and marketing budgets, they cannot control legacy. The love, laughter, and truth of Living Single endure, not as a relic of the past, but as a living testament to the strength of a family forged in fire.